Let's kick this off. So thank you again so much for joining us in today's webinar. We are super excited to be joined by a couple of folks and partners with Trustworthy. I'm going to go ahead and kick it over and have Shlomit Bard kick us off with introductions. But Shlomit, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm Shlomit Levy Bard. I'm a professional photographer for over 20 years. I'm also a certified photo manager. I'm based in Los Angeles. And as you know, the issue of safeguarding our memories has been so relevant here, especially in the last couple of months.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ellen Goodwin, and I am the co-founder of Artifcts. I'm based out of Austin, Texas. And preparedness is a key theme for us at Artifacts because we want to safeguard the memories and everything behind your stuff, the value too. And that involves preparedness, but we're also going to talk today about what happens after a loss.
That's me. Hi, my name is Taylor Hiskey, and I am the head of marketing here at Trustworthy, and super excited to be joining you today.
My name is Cairo Amani, and I'm head of customer success at Trustworthy. I also run our Trustworthy Certified Experts team, and they're available for our customers who want help setting up the program.
And my name is Cathi Nelson. I'm the CEO and founder of the Photo Managers, and we help families tell their family stories by organizing and curating their photo collection. And we are passionate about this topic and have been talking about how to safeguard memories before disaster strikes for quite some time. So I'm thrilled to be here on this webinar.
Thank you so much, Cathi. So today's topic, as you may have seen, is disaster preparedness, how to safeguard what matters most before disaster strikes. This is such an important topic for all of us here, which is why we're so excited to talk to you about it. And the first thing we're going to do today is do a live Q&A with Cathi and Shlomit, who are really bringing some serious expertise when it comes to how do people safeguard their most precious documents and artifacts, and like being there from the photo managers and professional photo organizers. So we'll just kick it right off. Shlomit, I'm going to ask you the first question. As someone who has seen clients personally go through disasters, such as the LA fires, what were the biggest challenges they faced in that moment?
Yes, I would say the biggest challenge is that people really aren't thinking straight in a moment like that. They are thinking about kind of what's going on. Even though they may not be panicked, most people didn't think that the fires were really going to come to them in many cases, right? The areas that burned, nobody had expected it to happen. And so they didn't really take the time. It's not the time then to try to figure things out, right? You want to have a plan in advance. So for instance, one client mentioned that even though they had a few hours to pack up, they weren't really thinking about it that seriously as far as what to take, because they're mainly watching the fires from the roof. They didn't think the fires would come that close to them. And they had a few hours, but because they had to evacuate before, they really weren't taking it that seriously. And they loaded up 2 cars with a variety of things that they could think of in the moment. You know, grabbed some of the family albums that we had spent years lovingly making together, her wedding album, but there's a lot that she regrets too. For instance, some paintings that she wishes she had taken, a whole photo wall that she says she had time. She could have taken down all these photos and packed them up in the car. She left her daughter's car behind thinking, you know, just be back. Not really the main thing. So I would say really that the biggest challenge is just not being organized ahead of time.
Yeah, I definitely see that being a huge stopgap. Cathi, this actually brings me to you. You know, have you seen maybe that are the most common mistakes? And I hesitate to say mistake because when you're in the moment, right, it's so hard to know the right choice versus the wrong choice because you're moving so quickly. But maybe challenges people might face when storing digital and physical photos.
Yeah, I think it's not a mistake, but I think none of us are motivated usually to do something around because of, you know, potential disaster, because we don't want to even think about that. But we do know that most people have a lifetime of photos, right? You have, you know, 2 worlds of photos, your analog photos, and not just photos, but videos, keepsake items. So we really suggest that to take the time to do an inventory, to know what the first step would be to know what you have. Even if you just this weekend, grab a sheet of paper and start, have 7 blue albums and boxes of photos in the basement and the attic and tubs. And I have, just to start to really, we have the old VCR tapes that we haven't looked at, or camcorder videos, or 8mm film. Get an idea. And the same thing with where your photos are digitally. If you're like most people, especially when we were first using SD cards, right? You probably imported your photos in Dropbox, Shutterfly, Google Photos. Oh, I'm going to try Amazon Photos. I think I'll try this company. I think I'll try that. So your digital photos are just spread out everywhere. Maybe you're now an Apple, husband is on Android, you're an Apple user, you're in the cloud, Apple library. So just starting to get a sense of where they are is, I think, the first step in being prepared before the disaster. There's a lot more steps to take after that, but just to even have a vision, an understanding of what you have, so that you can start making the best decisions about what it is that you really want to make sure that you save in case of a disaster.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that for you both, because you're working with clients so frequently, how do you help clients balance what, security and accessibility are like when you're storing and saving these kinds of sentimental items like photos and things like that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. A rule called the 3-2-1 backup rule. And that's one that I really recommend for everyone. I didn't invent it, but it's a really useful thing to think about. So basically what that means is you want to have 3 backups, 3 copies of your photo. One is a primary and 2 are actually backups. And one of them should be off-site, so a cloud-based account. That's really important in this kind of situation, as we've seen, when you might have everything super organized, but if you don't have a remote copy of it, if a disaster strikes in your home, it's, what if you weren't home at the time? What if you couldn't get home to even evacuate, right? So you're at risk of losing that stuff. So that's for digital. Really having everything in one place, in one central place, really important, as Cathi was saying. And there are a lot of great ways to do that. It's a little more too complicated to get into all the details of that, but it really essentially storing everything in one place is really important digitally. And then for physical prints, we also want to make sure that we've digitized the prints that are important to us, and also storing those as well in 3 different places. So those are really the main thing.
Yeah, go along with that. It's like redundancy, and it almost can feel like overkill. But my example of that too is, I thought I was doing so well. I plugged in an external hard drive many years ago and was backing up all my photos onto the external hard drive that was, plugged into my computer in case my computer crashed. And then somebody broke into a house and stole my computer and the plugged in hard drive. So I did lose, like, as good as I was doing. I didn't have the redundancy. I didn't have that 3rd cloud backup. So if I had also had them backed up in the cloud, I would have gotten them back to them that way. And I think the other thing too is, once, especially with those printed photos, digitizing is really an important component of this, is taking the time. And there are professionals who can do this for you if you don't have time to do it yourself. But we always say, your curated collection. We don't recommend that you scan every photo that you've ever taken, because it's just kind of garbage out. But to go through and pick the best photos, the ones that tell your family stories. Because you think about, what are the photos you're most devastated about losing? Think about what would be the ones that, going to probably be wedding photos, baby photos, your dad, the photo of your dad making a silly face. Not all the scenery photos that we've taken over the years, not every vacation photo we've ever taken. It's really the ones that are a part of our life story. That's what you're going to be most upset about losing. And so those are the ones that you want to kind of your attention on.
That's such a great segue into this next question that I have, which I think for both of you really are, what are some simple, immediate steps that people can take starting right now to safeguard maybe their most treasured items like photos?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I think automating as much as possible is the key. We don't want to think about this stuff. It's not really a fun thing to deal with, but if we can prepare in advance, first of all, gathering everything that is important to us in one place, getting organized, and then automating the backups, that is really the best thing we can do, kind of set it and forget it method, right? And then making a grab and go kind of, right? So I have one client who has had to evacuate frequently. Fortunately, in this case, she was fine, but she lives in a high risk area and she's had to evacuate frequently. She's super organized, and what she does is she actually has on her notes app on her phone a list for every single room in her house and what she would take from there, so that when the time comes, it's just very easy to look at that. And when she thinks of something and she's out and about, her day, even if she's not home, it's on her notes app on her phone. She can just add it. It's on her computer, knows where to find it. She also has a printout. So there's a lot of things that you can do to get organized in there, but really just having a plan is the key.
Yeah. The other thing I want to say too is it's so clear, like the fires in LA and stuff, like we do, there's fires, but what we're seeing more and more too is communities that think they're not in any kind of danger zone, like Vermont, Vermont or whatever gets like inches of rain in 1 hour a couple summers ago, and rivers flow up in the, comes down and just wipes out half the town. Or in Kentucky recently that happened, or one of my employees, she's on a hill, but she was surrounded by water for 5 days. She couldn't leave their home from just like leak, which I don't even know if it hits the national news, right? But so we're all at somewhat risk, I think, at this point of having something strange happen to things that could happen. So I think, like Lee was saying, taking the time to brainstorm what are the things that you would be most devastated about losing, just to get that idea to get like, oh, for me, and it's not always just photos and videos, but my the outfits that my kids wore home from the hospital, and something of value to me, right? My mom passed down my baby shoes to me, and my kids wore my baby shoes, and I want my grandkids to wear those baby shoes. So those are things I think about every day. And I'm not, I will admit the shoemaker doesn't have shoes always perfectly either. So where are those? I do have an idea. I know where they are, but do I know where they are enough to think to grab them on my way out the door? Maybe not. I'd have to give that some thought. So that's what we're trying to say in this webinar, is to start to think about it, even if it's not something that you want to think about.
I'm such a great way to think about it too. And that you're right. I think that's what's most important about having these kinds of conversations that we're having today, is that just getting you into the mindset to think about the ways in which you as a person would start this process. And I wanted to say too, Shlomit, you had a really great thing to say about like the documentation process now. And I will give a little shout out to Trustworthy here, in that there is space in Trustworthy for you to add those documents, so that yes, we have a document somewhere and it is in Trustworthy, and we have a space for if anything were to happen to any one of us, we can find where all of these things are here in Trustworthy. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. So I think for our last question, but for those who are in the midst of disaster recovery, and this is really coming off of what we saw in January in the LA fires, for those who are coming off of this and are in the midst of the recovery process, what advice would you give them on preserving what's left and rebuilding maybe things that have been lost?
Yes, the things is to reach out to people, to your loved ones, to your friends, to your family, and see what are the images that they have, to your photographer, right? So, my clients know that I have an archive of a lot of the images that they would want, and that was super reassuring. That's something that's really important to me, is to preserve that stuff. So I'm pretty good about saving those things for clients as well. But in one case, I know I have a client who lost everything, and luckily her sister did have a lot of the old family photos from their childhood that she had digitized. And so they do have some additional things. So it's not that absolutely everything is lost, but that's probably a good place to start, is reaching out to everyone asking for help with sort of what they have that might be important to you.
And I had one thought too when I saw that question about that question. The first thought is like, other people probably do have photos or different family members, and to ask them. They might even have old negatives or things of your parents that you don't know, or aunts and uncles who might have photos or videos from the past you don't know about. But I was also thinking about the idea of, I really believe this idea of stories, the items that we care most about, there's stories attached to those. And maybe there's ways to create new stories. If there was a favorite place, maybe you went to, the Northeast, a lot of people love going to Cape Cod for vacation. It's a family tradition, and lots of photos probably around that. But maybe you get a T-shirt, or get, you remember about that, and build a story back around that again, so that you're not losing that connection. to those stories that really are the heart of who we are as a family, and that we tell those stories. So there's creative ways to think about it when you're ready. Probably not immediately right now. I'm sure that's down the road, but to maybe some rituals and different things that you can create would be helpful. And last of all, with waterlogged photos, people don't realize this, but waterlogged photos can be saved and preserved. You don't have to, this is not for fires, but say that, sprayed a lot, there are a lot of different techniques. And then I even know a story of one of our members who, fires in LA a few years ago, she had all their photos in the safe. And then of course the safe, the photos melted, but she was able to actually extract from that big clump of melted photos in the middle, the photos in the middle actually were preservable. So there are ways to get access to some of those things that you may have never thought about. So don't just think, oh, all is lost, I have to throw all that away. There might be ways to get back at some of those things.
Wow, thank you. Yeah. Goodness, I couldn't imagine having to go through those processes, but we have about 1 minute left in this portion. But I would love to ask you just if there's any, whether it's working with you or any other technology that you would suggest when it comes to the preservation of things like photos and keepsakes.
Yes, teach people how to get all of their photos into one place and get organized. So I can certainly help people with that. If you stick around for the end, I have a little bit more information about that. I would also say, a lot of apps out there, but I think the main thing, there's so many cloud services and apps, and I think the biggest issue is that people are overwhelmed and then they're paralyzed, right? Because there's not really a one-size-fits-all solution. Really dependent on your own situation. For instance, like he was mentioning, if one of you is on an iPhone and one of you is on an Android, we might suggest something different than if everyone is on an Apple-based device in your home, for instance. Or if you have, of old photos and prints that you need to preserve and not as much digital, there's different kind of solutions for everybody. I'll give a little plug to the photo manager community. Definitely talk to photo manager like myself, or there's hundreds of us all over the country, all over the world actually, that can help with this issue. And I will also say, speaking of fireproof safes, one of the things we realized in these fires was that they're not so fireproof, unfortunately. People who had things stored in there, the fires lasted, that only rated to survive, I think, a certain amount of time and a certain heat level or something. These fires just destroyed everything for a lot of people. People were able to save a tiny bit of something that was in those. So we can't count on just those things. We really need to have a bigger plan.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that later in the presentation when we talk about Trustworthy, but it's definitely overwhelmed for sure when it comes to the preservation of these memories, these keepsakes. So, well, thank you both, Cathi and Shlomit, for participating in this with us. We are so grateful for your expertise. And stick around, we have more information about the photo managers and Shlomit as well. So thank you both so much.
I'll put in a quick plug for both Trustworthy and Artifacts who are here on bringing this webinar. As professionals, those are products that we use and companies that we trust and have vetted. And so take it from there. But I just wanted to say too that company, great products, care deeply about this process.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, definitely. And Trustworthy also works with the photo managers and photo organizers like me every day as part of our Trustworthy Certified Expert program. Which is a service that we offer for those who are on Trustworthy and are looking to preserve and maintain their family organization. So if you're looking for some additional assistance, we definitely have that baked into Trustworthy as well. So I am going to turn it over to Ellen from Artifcts.
Hi again, thank you. And I want to say it's really brilliant. I'm happy so many folks are here today because the trio of professional photo managers, Trustworthy and Artifacts, I think that we have a lot to offer for you. Hi again, I'm Ellen Goodwin, the co-founder of Artifacts, and we like to say we are where stuff and stories meet. We want to help people change their relationships to the stuff and to each other as they stop to think, what is this? Why does it matter? And what will I do with it next? And so I'd like to take a few minutes just to introduce ourselves, and then I'm going to take you through a few stories. This is my co-founder, Heather, and myself. We were at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas last January with AARP. We're part of the AARP Age Tech Collaborative, as is Trustworthy. And we wanted to build something different, right? We didn't need an inventory of every single thing. You heard it from our photo friends. Curation is at the heart of being prepared and really dealing with the most critical and the most valuable, heart or financial to you. And so we didn't need an inventory. We didn't need journals. When Heather's mother passed away unexpectedly at age 65 and had a leather-bound estate plan that said divide assets equally among 3 kids, and there was actually no conflict, but it was 2 brothers that said to Heather, not it, but don't get rid of anything important. That was a really tough pill to swallow. Several months going through grief, going through a house, trying to figure out what it all was, why it mattered to her mother, and what they should do with it all. That's a really challenging process to go through. So we created Artifacts. We're about 3.5 years old. And one of our founding principles is not to create a story burden. As we were talking with folks, they're like, oh, my kid gave me this book of 100 questions to answer, which for some people, they love it. And that's great. Other people see that as a project. They're not writers. They don't even think their stories matter. And so we wanted to say, great, Dad gave that to you. That's all you want to say. Now we know it didn't come from Target. You have a 5,000-word essay about the story of that thing that you want to tell. Fabulous. Here's a space for that too. We're ad-free. We don't sell data. And everything on Artifacts is private by default. You can change settings. You can easily share with friends, insurance, estate plans, etc. But by default, everything is no. Everything is your screen name, protects your identity. So we really lean into the privacy and security. We have a mobile app where you can record audio and video to actually add into your artifacts right inside the app. And we also have a website where you can work there if you like the larger space like me. And here's just a few of the ways that we're engaged around the community. Last year, we won a Mom's Choice Award because people are using us for digital baby books. You heard the photo folks talking about, the photos and dresses and things like that. Great. Tell the stories while you still remember them, because it doesn't take dementia for you to forget the stories, right? We even hear about those memento boxes. People put stuff in and then 2 years later, they've even forgotten why it was there. So we work with insurance companies, wealth managers. We've been mentioned in Time Magazine, helping people declutter. And to quote Matt Paxton's book, lose the stuff, I'm forgetting. I'm spacing it. Save the stuff.
I wish I could
save
help
the
you.
memories. Sorry,
There you go.
I had a brain freeze there. You can't save it all, but you can save the memories. And so
one more time,
we're also working on a brain health study, which is deeply ironic because my brain just went sideways there. And I provide caregiver lounges through HFC, Hilarity for Charity, helping caregivers to save family stories for those with dementia that they work with. So that's a little bit about us. And I want to share a great story from, on next slide, from one of our board advisors, Matt Paxton. He's a huge advocate of Artifacts and the why. For 25 years, he's been trying to help people clear out their homes. He was on Hoarders for 15 years. He has Legacy Lists with Matt Paxton, a new show also coming out in a couple of weeks. And at the heart of it was giving people a space to tell their stories. There's a lot of tough stuff. We keep it because it matters to us. It's not the object, it's the stories and the people they represent. And if you want to tell stories, if you want to save stories, you have to actually keep telling them and capture them and make sure that they're shareable. So here's a great example from Matt Paxton about Tiffany's ring. So his father, I think of him as like Madman's ad executive, right? He did a photo shoot back in the day for Tiffany. And as payment, he asked them for a ring that was in the shoot. Now, fast forward in time, Matt lost his father, but before doing so, on his deathbed, one of those stories, he gave Matt the Tiffany ring. And this ring symbolizes a lot to Matt, not just that moment. It's not about the ring. It's who his father, larger than life, was and everything he taught Matt about being an entrepreneur. And so Matt had artifacted the ring, and he actually told the story. You can see a little audio icon next to the photo. He told the story because he wanted his children who never met his father to know the story and who his father was. Now, normally Matt doesn't take that ring off, but he did one night at a dinner for business in Ohio, got back to his hotel room and realized he didn't have the ring. So what can he do? He shares the artifact with the restaurant, because how often do you take a picture of something you're wearing all the time? He actually had a beautiful photo of it. Share the artifact with the restaurant. Have you seen this ring? Right? Also, share the artifact with his insurance agent. File a claim. Here's the provenance information. Here's the photograph. Here's everything you need to process that claim. The restaurant called back day later, they found the ring run over in the parking lot, a little bit worse the wear. Shares the artifact a third time to have it reconstructed to look as it did originally. So this is how creating an artifact not only preserves his father's story and who he was for his kids and in his own voice, but it also helps him be better prepared. And the preparedness side of artifacts is just that. We want you to connect through your artifacts. Share these bite-sized stories. We have very ever-shrinking attention spans in this world. Give your kids bite-sized stories, right? No one's going to sit there and listen for 2 hours to have grandma tell you her life story. You're going to lose them in 2 minutes. But these bite-sized stories can live on and also better prepare us for all of life's unexpected moments, loss, theft, Mother Nature, you name it. And so that's the preparedness side that we want to speak to. Next, when we talk about preparedness, and just like with Trustworthy, very private oriented here on Artifacts, obviously being digital in the cloud, you can get to it 24/7 wherever you are, and you can easily share it privately, securely with whomever needs it, that insurance agent, a lawyer, friends and family, anyone that needs it, you can share that access. But more than that, you can bring in the details that will matter and make your life a lot easier. It's easy to create an artifact. You can do it in 30 seconds. There are very few required fields, but we provide a lot of leeway for you to do more. For example, each artifact you create can have up to 5 photo, video, and audio in it. So like that example, I have a photo of the ring, and I can have a picture of Dad wearing the ring with me. I can have a video of that ring, or imagine it's a painting or something else. You can have a full video for provenance reasons, for appraisal purposes of the item. Now, if you were also thinking, I might need to have it appraised, have it shipped, have it stored, you might need the weight and the dimensions. You might be space planning for a future move. If it's for appraisal, you're going to want maker mark, any dents or damage, things like that. You can capture all those essential details as well as supporting documentation, receipts, appraisals. I went to Brazil and I got my daughter this ring because we don't have heirloom jewelry. You can bet I attached the receipt and the appraisal that came with it. So if she doesn't want it someday, she has my crazy story of being in Rio and there's these gunmen and everything turns out fine and we have champagne, but she also has the receipt. So if she doesn't want it, she could always sell it one day and she has the information she needs. And custom tags. Now, I will admit, when we built Artifacts, what we were thinking with tags is breaking free from folders. I don't know about you, but I don't think about the same thing the same 2 days in a row. So in my mind, I might have been thinking, oh, this belonged to mom. I'm going to tag it mom's estate. But tomorrow I might be thinking it's about jewelry. And how you filter that in your brain might depend on your mood. It might depend on why you're thinking about it. With custom tags, we've seen the arty community use them very robustly for functional reasons, like I have this item. I want to go see all my artifacts that are insured. I want to see all of them that are in my storage unit. I want to see all of them that are in my attic, so I don't have to go up in that creepy crawly space and see if it's there. I already tagged it. It's in the attic. I know it's there. So we have a lot of ability at Artifacts to support you. And that extends obviously digitally. So you are backed up, as we heard from the photo managers. And that's really, really important. So I'm going to quickly try and wrap up here to preserve time. Yep, next slide. One of our arty community members, this is a direct quote from her. How do you artifact disaster? This photograph we're using with her permission from a friend who sent it to her to say our neighborhood that we grew up in is burning down right now. And she was really, truly about it. And there's nothing you can do. None of this is in your control. You've done what you've done. You're not there, and she genuinely wanted our advice on artifacting post-loss. This is a very prominent theme, and I'd say even a growing one here at Artifacts is loss. And loss can be a lot of things. All of your property, your home, your community in this case. This wasn't a single home. It's an entire community, which is really hard for us to understand the scope of this loss. But it can also be loss in terms of life, losing a loved one. It can be other things. For example, PTSD with veterans. We're watching people grieve. We're watching them with mental health moments where they need a space that is private and secure. My mother has dementia. I can't let her be on Facebook where people are trying to friend her and send her advertisements. This doesn't work. but I can put her inside Artifacts where she's reading stories and we're laughing and talking about things that are familiar and make her happy. So when we talk about artifacting post-disaster, what I did is I shared with some of my private artifacts. I have artifacted my roots. I call it remembering my roots. I have a picture of my childhood home. My parents still live there. I have a picture of the upstairs hallway with a picture on the wall that is always been there. And my mother changed decor a lot, but not that picture. I have a picture of the floor grate where we used to throw things down at each other, but it was really for letting heat rise in old farmhouses. I artifacted the stories that were from my childhood because I've curated photos that I can go back to and I can capture what I want to share. And again, curation matters, but also being able to share that privately with friends and family and come together around themes. And so I think that that's something that we all have to create space for and time for, because it is part of that healing process. And it's something that we're really grateful that Artifacts is supporting people through these more difficult times, and hope that by artifacting photos, we like to say we adore our photo manager friends, and we have a lot of artifacts for professionals that are from the photo manager community. And why? Once you curate all those photos and get them organized and get them automated and backed up, who's going to tell the stories? The photos, we can animate them in creative ways, it really well, but no one remembers the story one generation removed, and the second generation removed, it's a genealogy project. Who is in the photos? So it's kind of up to us, and at Artifacts, that's what people do. They artifact the photo to tell the story. They bring together the community by doing so. So I will pause there and turn it back over to Taylor. Thank you for giving me the space to share.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ellen. It just makes me think of the wall at my grandmother's house. It's like preserving that, right? And making sure that everything, my great grandmother's christening dress down to everyone's wedding photos, is artifacted through,
Taylor, a really good example. We had an Artie community member when we first launched, and she brought us, we did a concierge session with her, and she had this like couple-year-old baptismal gown that was cut from a wedding dress. So and she had the photos of all these people through time wearing it, and it was a dress in a box. And I was like, so someone finds that stashed in the closet, just so we all are aware it's a dress in a box. And so she artifacted it to capture the story, because otherwise it's a dress in a box.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Ellen. So appreciate you sharing these stories and sort of the perspective of Artifact.
So our first successful question is, when gathering digital photos, it's a two-parter. When gathering digital photos from a variety of sources/platforms, what is recommended as a destination organizing strategy by date, by source? Any tips? Also, is it worth the time to pare down digital photos from different sources before merging into one location? Thank you. And that's from Julie.
Thank you,
I can answer that. So first of all, I will say that gathering everything into one place is the most important thing. You don't have to worry about curating before you do that. There's software to help you do that. It gets into some technical questions that are kind of complicated, but basically you want to just have everything in one place. And usually that's a hard drive to start with, where you're downloading from the cloud accounts, or gathering from, I apologize if you can hear my dog going crazy in the background, gathering from different cloud accounts, from different hard drives, SD cards, different computers that you might have. Putting everything in one place is the first thing to start. So we talk about this. Generally, there are best practices for this. I can't get into like all the details, but if you want to reach out to me, I can help with that, or some of the other photo managers as well. This is one of the things that I teach people how to do. And I'm not sure, there were two questions. Did I answer both of them, or did I miss one?
The second half was, is it worth the time to pare down digital photos from different sources before merging into one location?
Yeah, no, the first thing you want to do is just get everything organized, because it can be overwhelming. And with digital, digital storage is relatively cheap. A lot of people, this is something I talk to people about all the time. People get freaked out about how big their cloud accounts are, or paying money for cloud storage, and they don't want to pay money for cloud storage. We have to think about this we're in a different era than we were, 20 years ago, even 5 years ago. Cloud storage is relatively cheap. And so I really suggest get as much storage as you need to store your things. Worry about, curating after that. And there are many, handy and convenient ways that you can start doing that. But you're not going to have anything to curate if you're not at least gathering everything in one place, first of all. So that's the first step, is really gathering everything in one place, and then you can deal with the curation later. Pay for the storage that you need. And that includes having a phone and a computer actually that have the storage that you need also. That's really my best advice in that regard.
Thank you. And then Taylor, the quote you missed was "Keep the memories, lose the stuff." Mary nicely heard it and dropped it in here. And then
Mary.
Our next question is from Sandra, who says, "Can you download your photos, stories, videos, and audio from Artifacts to have a backup copy?"
Hi, Sandra. Yes, great question. And yes, the answer is yes. You can download any individual or multiple or your entire Artifacts collection. We don't compress the files or change them. So if you take a zip and you bring it all right back down, it will be your original photo, video, audio documents, as well as the story and every other detail you've added will come right back. And in fact, if anyone were to ever leave Artifacts, we hope not, the first thing we say is, please take your Artifacts with you. We think they're valuable. And we show you all of your options, which include Excel, PDF, something new that's coming soon, as well as a zip folder with all of the originals. And we do encourage that. I mean, we have backups too, but nothing is foolproof in this world. Nothing is forever or permanent. You have to I love where you're going with backing up even your Artifacts.
Let's talk a little bit about what does Trustworthy bring to the table in this conversation. I think, Shlomit, you said this, that there are people who get very overwhelmed by the thought of organization. And I think that there's this critical challenge that families are facing when keeping essential documents and emergency plans organized, especially in the face of disaster. Trustworthy allows you to centralize and safeguard some of this vital information. And a lot of that is through the documentation, right? So we have our partners here who are working through the keepsakes and the photos and those kinds of information. Trustworthy, I think, is on the other side of it for vital documentation and ensuring that you and your family can access it instantly when you need it the most. We hear stories all the time, and Cairo can probably speak to it better than I can, of families who are going through these really interesting and difficult times, saying that I was able to access this piece of vital information right from my phone in a medical emergency or anything like that because I had it in Trustworthy. And I think that to us is really the crux of why we do what we do. Let's take everything from all over the place into one centralized location. And similar to Artifacts, we have a Apple mobile app, and if you hang out with us for a couple more days, you might have a new announcement here that we're coming out with an Android app, so stay tuned to our channels for more on that. But we're super excited to be able to offer this sort of, how can we centralize and keep it secure? So that's the problem we're facing, right? That disorganization during crisis can really lead to some costly impacts. If you are coming up against delays, accessing insurance policies during a crisis or during a disaster, if you're missing legal documents because you don't have them at the ready, this can really impact your life, right? It can really show and put more emotional strain on an already emotional situation. And so for us at Trustworthy, we are looking to help families avoid the pitfalls by providing structure, a secure platform, and eliminate stress of managing where scattered paperwork might be. I think, as we've talked about, Shlomit said that fireproof boxes during the LA fires, we saw that those fireproof boxes really weren't fireproof at the end of the day. They reached a certain temperature and those documents were gone. And so I think being able to have a secure space like Trustworthy really eliminates that. When we're looking at some of the DIY systems that are out there right now, which include boxes, which include storage, or that corner of your office where you have a box of documents that you're meaning to go through, but you haven't quite gone through yet. I think what we're trying to provide is a space. So we know that families don't always know what to prepare. So these DIY spaces really leave you with this blank slate, right? You're coming into, whether it's a Google Drive or a Dropbox, and it's this blank slate of a space, leading to gaps in emergency planning, or you have emergency contacts and plans that may be left incomplete or inaccessible, making it really hard to act quickly in a crisis. We've also seen that DIY systems lack sort of secure temporary sharing. It's easy to maybe pass a document to somebody, but is that as secure as it possibly can be? And so we're trying to sort of pull together, how can we take these DIY systems that may fall short and sort of take that into a more secure and digital space. So that said, we here at Trustworthy, we call our family operating system. So it allows for you to take that DIY sort of location that maybe you're using right now and bring it into the future a little bit. So with our family operating system, it's super safe, it's super easy. We start with giving you sort of the tools and the categories that you can start with. So you're not starting with a blank slate. We are giving you bank level security for these really very important documents. So you know that this is secure. It's going through two-factor authentication, all of the security levels that we have when uploading these important documents. Like I said, we have a very structured system. I know I love a good structure. When I come into something, it's so nice to be able to say, got it. I know I can upload this thing. Here's all the information. It really automates the process with Trustworthy. So let's say, for example, you're uploading your ID, which is one of the first documents that we have you upload. Our system will extract a lot of the information coming from that ID, and it will also set a reminder for when that ID is going to expire. So that way it's taking a lot of the pressure off of you as the user of Trustworthy, to be able to have everything in that one spot, but also know when things are coming up for renewal, when items need to be, what other items could be stored in this space, and really starting with a really clean and categorized space for you. We also have temporary secure sharing. We call them secure links, and you can set sharing them for an hour, sharing them for a week with trusted advisors, loved ones, and family members. And this is super important, especially during times of crisis. Like I said, if you are up against an insurance claim and you need to provide insurance information very quickly, that secure link sharing to an advisor could really make or break. You get that information quickly within an hour or within a month. And so very exciting opportunities in that. Secure cloud storage, automated reminders, like I said, to update specific documents. This is where Trustworthy truly shines. And so being able to be proactive in organizing your information, reducing that stress, and avoiding any setbacks that might be present during times of crisis. So we can hopefully help you navigate any emergency or any big crisis moment with peace of mind. Really, at the end of the day, that is what we hope to provide at Trustworthy, is true peace of mind. Be slow down. So that's a little bit more about Trustworthy. If there are any questions now, I think I saw a couple come through. I'd love to answer.
Yes. We have an anonymous question. In your opinion, what is best and cost-effective online storage? What is the best and most cost-effective online storage only option? Google, Apple, others?
That's a great question. I will throw out that Trustworthy, you can get started today for free, forever. We have a free option for you to get started today. So there is no cost associated with organization. So you get all of these safety precaution measures with Trustworthy for free.
I would have said the same thing. And the next question is from Anne. Is there a version of Trustworthy tailored to countries other than the US to cater for different types of documents? I can take that one. There is no other version of Trustworthy, but we do have international customers. There might be some things in Trustworthy that are built in that like apply to you in your country, like 401k space or something like that. And then there's an option in every category to kind of add your own, like you'd have to fill the information out manually, but you'd still be able to store a picture of it, access it, print it, securely share it, like Taylor was saying earlier. We have another question from David. Do Trustworthy and Artifacts have a succession or legacy contact feature? If the owner dies, who has access and takes over? Yeah, for Trustworthy, you can absolutely, so we have a collaborator feature and you can have a legacy access collaborator and they will get full access to your account after you pass on. So that's for Trustworthy, if anyone wants to speak for Artifacts.
Yeah, me. So Artifacts, we have legacy contacts. You can nominate a primary legacy contact as well as a secondary legacy contact. When you do so, they will receive a note about that and it will tell them what their options are. And what those options are downloading the entirety of the collection and closing out the account, or they can transfer those artifacts into another Artifacts account. They will not be editable. We do preserve your artifacts and everything you've said as was at the end of life. So we don't allow others to edit what you have created, just as a heads up. But yes, those are both available from account settings.
Awesome. Okay, are rolling in. Ellen, do you want to continue with how much it costs to get access to Artifacts?
Sure. So we have, okay, I'm going to do this right this time. So thinking about legacy lists, 5 items. You can do 5 artifacts for free, and we encourage you to do so. And try it where you like to work. If you prefer working on tablet, try us there. If you like desktop, if you like mobile, try us where you're in your happy place. That also is how we ensure you can privately share artifacts without actually having to buy a membership. And that's really important to us as well. You can send an artifact to your neighbor. They don't have to have a paid membership to be able to view that. You can invite them to an artifact circle. They don't have to have a paid membership to join the circle and enjoy what people are sharing. Then we have 2 tiers, a $45 a year tier for your 30 artifacts and an unlimited tier at $119. And the $119 also gives you 3 memberships to give away. So for example, my mother with dementia doesn't have credit cards anymore. She has one of my accounts. My daughter is technically too young to have an account. She has an account through me, and she may have given one to the dog. I'm sorry. But it lets you bring in others to your community that you want to have artifacting with you. And they will have an unlimited account just like you. And if you kick them off, they'll get a very polite note that says, please go buy your own. And that's fine too.
Thank you. For Trustworthy, like Taylor said, we have a free forever account. It does have limited space, but it's free until you feel like upgrading. So if you don't want, ID and birth certificate floating around in Google Drive, you can put it in Trustworthy safely for free. And then we have our silver plan that starts at that is $120 for the year, and our gold plan, which is $240 for the year. And the difference between the two is that the gold plan has space for business and anything related to like your LLC or anything like that. And something else to point out is that Trustworthy allows an unlimited amount of collaborators who can be invited to your account with whatever form of access you want them to have. And we don't charge extra no matter how many people you're kind of information with.
One question, and then we'll have to keep going forward.
I was just about to say, okay, we have an anonymous question that I have to skip because I don't think I understand it. Our next one is, what about items that aren't so formal? For example, a list of people I want my son to contact to inform of my death, along with a contact method. Can those be added in? Those can definitely be put into Trustworthy. Absolutely. That's a common use case for it.
Yes.
I'll give it back to you, Taylor.
Perfect. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. I know there's probably so many more questions. If you have more questions about Trustworthy or any of our partners, please email us at support@trustworthy.com. We'd be happy to connect you to Ellen at Artifacts and Cathi at TPM and Shlomit as well. So for those of you who are attending today, we have a discount code for our silver and gold plans, a 20% off discount. Like I said, you can get started for free today, but we also have this discount for you as well. We'll also be sending out this presentation afterwards. So if you missed something, please don't worry. It'll be there for you here shortly. with that, Artifacts is also giving a discount today for joining us, so you can use to access that as well. Thank you so much, Ellen and Artifacts. We also have a disaster planning guide that you can download, and this is really for us to be able to help you go through how to best prepare for a disaster. So it is that you can download, that you can have, and that you can also store in Trustworthy should you like. By scanning this QR code, you have that option as well. Our friends at Photo Managers have Save Your Photos Week coming up. They will have daily live webinars for you to attend, guides for you to download, and community and support to be part of. So we're very excited at Trustworthy to be part of that week as well. So we hope you join us. Cathi, I believe it's the last week of March. Oh, you're on mute, Cathi.
Yes, and we kick it off, I think it's the 21st of March with an LA a scanning event where for the weekend, one of our members in LA is their goal is to scan 250,000 photos for free in conjunction with Epson, who donated 5 Epson Fast Photo scanners. So if you go to our website, you can sign up for that if you have people in the LA area, or send it to people. Otherwise, every day we will be doing live webinars with guest experts on all the topics in kind of covering some things that people, it's free, and it's our way of giving back to our communities, knowing how the topic is. And we usually do it in September. It's been going on for many years, but we realized, what, we shouldn't wait till September. We should launch one also in March. So
awesome. And then we also wanted to share Shlomit's contact information as well. And she has some great resources for you to be able to do some photo management. Thank you guys so much for joining us in today's webinar. And we really appreciate you being here. And we will see you for the next one. Thank you all, Cathi, Ellen, and Shlomit as well.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.